Kelly Davis, your host of the Untold Miracles podcast, and today we have a very special guest on the show. She's best known for appearing on ABC's hit reality show, The Bachelor, in 2015 and 2016. Since the show, she has risen to fame with her lifestyle blog, her successful YouTube channel, and her award-winning podcast, Scrubbing In with Becca, Tilley, and Tanya Rad, where she covers everything from dating and relationships to music and her favorite TV shows. She's a social media influencer and works with brands and charities all over the world. She is also the mother to an adorable Pomeranian, Phoebe, who also has her own social following. Becca, Tilley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Phoebe's right here with me.
Aww.
She was very excited about that intro.
Well, we have to promote Phoebe real quick. She has her own channel. It's I Am Phoebe Tilley, right? On Instagram.
Yeah.
You guys got to check her out. Her baby photos are the cutest things I've ever seen. She reminds me of a dog that I had a long time ago. And anyway, I would tell everyone to go follow Phoebe right now because it's definitely worth the click on Instagram to follow her.
She's still the cutest dog in the world to me. But when she was a puppy, it was like she did not even look real. So it was I posted about her nonstop. And now she's like too busy and wild for me to even get a cute photo. She's like a blur.
I have to admit, her puppy photo, like the very first post you shared of her, is so cute. But Becca, we are so grateful for your support of Children's Miracle Network hospitals. I know you've supported our Children's Hospital in Orange County, and I know giving back is very important to you, and I would love to know your why for giving back to help sick kids.
I think, originally, so I went to college for a year in Louisiana, and my major while I was there was to be a child life specialist. So I kind of have always had this, like, passion or desire to be, I love kids. Mm. And so there's always been this, sense of kind of, like, finding my purpose in this world that involved, like, being around kids and being around, I don't know, kids who, whether they're sick or whether they just need someone to be around, like to have as company. I've just kind of always felt like that was something I'd want to do with my life. And so then when I moved out to California and left school and I wasn't doing that anymore, I kind of went through this phase of like, maybe that's not necessarily what I'm going to do, but maybe it's something that I'll always have the desire for. So with the platform I've been given, I've been able to do stuff and be involved, and it's been amazing because it's like I'm getting to kind of do what I originally wanted to do in just a different way.
Well, you were able to visit the Chalk Prom at our Children's Hospital in Orange County. Tell me what that experience was like, and was there a special child you met that day?
I've been to the prom a few times. I've been down during Thanksgiving for some events and Valentine's Day last year. And there's been I've met so many kids and it's really interesting getting to meet the kids, but also the family members who are so involved in this, like, you know, a lot of these kids, it's like all of a sudden their life is turned upside down. Mm-hmm. And it's also the families too. And so getting to see the kids and how resilient they are, because they're in a situation where I'm thinking if that were me at their age, I would not be. It's hard to imagine being like so upbeat and positive. And I think it has a lot to do with the people like you and the people who are putting on these events to make life feel normal. But there was a boy I met last year, and his name was Carter, and I talked to he and his mom for a while, and he was like flirting with all the girls and like making Valentines for everybody. And then I saw him at prom last year, and it was just cool to see, like I said, in the middle of like this battle that he's going through, like dancing and having fun with his friends. And so it's really, I think, going to those events, it's so encouraging to feel like they have this positivity and this light in the middle of this, dark time.
Well, I really want to thank you because I know it's not necessarily easy getting from LA down to Orange County. You would think it wouldn't take that long, but it can take several hours, even 4 hours out of a day to do that. So we're so grateful that you were able to do that. Because it's such an amazing distraction for these kids who go through so much, yet they get to look forward to these special visitors, and it really means everything to these kids and their families. Well, on this podcast, we talk about miracles, and I think your life is pretty miraculous. You grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, and now you're living your dreams in LA, building building a really strong and beneficial lifestyle brand. And I want to know, were there any miracles involved with you making that decision to leave Louisiana and go out to LA?
I believe like everything happens for a reason. I left, like I said, I was in school in Louisiana, and my brother-in-law got drafted to play football out here in San Diego for the Chargers. And he and my sister invited me to come out and live with them. And so I kind of was like, I wasn't happy where I was in school. And I thought, I'm just going to take the opportunity and go, like, why not? I'm going to get to live with them. I have family out there. So I just picked up and moved. And it's kind of like everything that happened came from just being able to be like, what's the worst that can happen? That was kind of my mindset of like, okay, I'll go back if it doesn't work out. And I remember writing down, I worked for a chiropractic office in San Diego. Shout out to Andrew's Chiropractic. They're the best ever. And I remember every year we would start the year with goal setting and like writing down our goals. And I've never been someone to really, I don't know, I never realized the power of like putting something out there, like writing it down or saying it out loud. And I just wrote down, he kind of said, whatever you want to do, even if it doesn't seem realistic, like anything you can think of, write it down. So I wrote down that I wanted to travel the world. And I think it was like 2 months later is when I got the call from The Bachelor. And in my mind, I remember thinking, well, first of all, my best friend from high school is who nominated me, and she didn't tell me. So it was like I got a call out of nowhere from The Bachelor. And I was very hesitant. I was like, I don't know. That doesn't really seem like my style of dating.
Plus, you'd never even watched the show. You weren't even like a fan of the show.
Right. Yeah. I watched it if my friends if I was over at a friend's house on Monday night and they were watching it, I would sit there and watch it. Like I knew the concept and everything, but I was definitely not someone who followed the season along or anything. And so
like
to
me
and yeah, is that how you are?
Yeah, I'm a Bachelor fan, so
okay.
I'm a fan.
I'm definitely more into it now because having been on it and now I know people, but it was kind of, in my mind, also a why not situation. And I did think in my mind, like out of all the people who go to castings and apply, like somehow they found me. So I'm just going to go up and meet with them. So, I mean, that whole thing in general, I guess, feels like a miracle in the sense that it was out of nowhere.
So when you made that decision, it was really because you're like, what's the worst that could happen? Was that pretty much your biggest what was your biggest reservation?
My biggest reservation was, I think my biggest reservation was, looking dumb or embarrassing myself or my family. But I kind of thought in my mind, I'm in control of what I say and how I act. And so whether there's cameras around or not, that shouldn't, I shouldn't be nervous about that. But, I went on and I got to travel, and I went on and had an amazing experience. I met so many amazing people, and it totally changed my life.
Well, dating is hard enough. So what was it like to date on national TV? I can't even imagine. Were you able to kind of just like remove the cameras from the situation, or like how did you make the most of that moment and really just be present?
Well, you do. It is a weird thing because after a certain amount of days, you are just used to these people being around with cameras. And so you're not even really, they're there, but not in a way that you feel like uncomfortable or like you can't talk or act a certain way. But the hardest part for me was knowing that I was going to kiss him and that I didn't know how I looked kissing on camera. I didn't know how like my dad and my grandma are watching. I was like so stressed out. I don't think I've ever been as nervous as I was on my one-on-one date, the night portion where I knew that we were going to kiss and thinking like this build up for it. And it ended up being fine, but it was like there was so much pressure in my mind.
Well, that's funny. I've never thought like right now until you said it, what would it be like if someone kissed or filmed you kissing someone like that? Actually, makes me terrified when you say that. I'm like, I can't even imagine someone videotaping me kissing someone. So that's pretty impressive. What was the biggest life lesson that you learned from the show?
I think there was a huge life lesson it was kind of post-show, once like the social media stuff and people were watching the show and having opinions on me that didn't necessarily know me, which was not to really let the opinions of people that don't know you bother you. Because I am not unrealistic enough to say that people who know you, when they have an opinion of you, I do think you should care, because I think if it's someone who you care about and who you respect and they know you well, that if they have an opinion or like, have something to say that might make you better if you're aware of it, I do think that's important. But I had there was all these strangers weighing in on my life, and I'm such a people pleaser and I want everyone to like me. And in my mind, I was like, why don't these people like me? They don't even know me. And I, had to kind of get a thick skin and be like, this is my life. I put myself out there. They don't know me. I hope that if I met them in person and had a one-on-one conversation that maybe their mind would change, but that's not going to happen. So I just have to accept it and move on.
Gosh, that's amazing advice, just because, your brand is built on social media. And so there's always going to be trolls and haters. And you've figured out a system that works for you to be able to really not care about those that don't have any idea who you are.
Yeah, it's like that quote that's like, you could be like the ripest and juiciest peach on the tree, and there's still going to be someone who doesn't like peaches. And it's like, oh yeah,
that is so good.
True.
That is so good. I love that. Well, I want to talk to you about your podcast.
Yeah.
You and Tanya discuss boy troubles and your favorite shows and chat with celebrity guests, and it won the award for Pop Podcast of 2018 at the People's Choice Awards. I want to know what gave you the idea to start this, and did you ever dream it would be what it is today?
Well, so my friend and one of our producers on the show, Amy, I co-hosted another podcast that she produces with Ben Higgins and Ashley I. Canetti, and it's called Almost Famous. And I think Ben was out of town or something. So I was first a guest with both of them, and then I co-hosted while he was out of town, and she came to me and was like, that was great. Would you want to do your own podcast? And I had a bunch of friends who have Bachelor-related podcasts, and so my instant thought was like, no, I don't really want to compete on I don't want to have another Bachelor podcast because what they have is really good, and I don't really want to compete with that or, step on any toes there. And she was like, well, why don't we do it more about you and your favorite TV shows? So that was kind of the first thought that we went with. And so it originally was just me and then our producers, and then we would have guests from different TV shows. And I'm obsessed with Grey's Anatomy since the beginning.
And so am I. So am I. I will be asking you what your favorite episode is later.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. And so I kind of came up with the name Scrubbing In, just thought it was like a funny play on being a Grey's Anatomy fan. And we had a few guests on, and then on one of the shows we needed some just like some filler space, some filler content. And so Tanya was still in the studio, and so we were like, Tanya, why don't you come, be on the podcast? So we did our segment with her, and it was just we just clicked. Like, she's one of my best friends, so naturally the chit chat was very natural, and we're very different, which had a funny element to it. And so then we were like, we need you. I guess I was like, I need you. So we brought Tanya on, and I could have only hoped that it would be what it is, because I thought it was just going to be another, something else for me to do and something to focus on and get to meet people and chat with people. But I had no idea that it would be what it is. And the cool thing, I think Tanya would say the same thing. We have this Facebook group who's like this community and this family, and they are so nice and uplifting to each other. And it's like such a positive thing, and what can normally be a very negative world in the social media platform. So it's been awesome. I'm really proud.
I would like to know what has been the biggest challenge in hosting a podcast, because I'm sure there's a lot of hard work involved that people might not know about, but what's been the hardest thing for you?
I think the hardest thing is knowing how much to share or how much to keep. You know, like if I want to, my natural instinct when doing a podcast is to like just throw it all out there because that's been my life, you know, and kind of knowing like what to share if I want to share it or what to keep private if I want to keep private. And like I said, we have this community that kind of feels like they're my friends. So naturally, my first instinct is, oh, I just want to share everything. And luckily, Tanya's very much an open book. So like if I'm having a time where I want to be, you know, a little more like private about certain things, she's an open book. So it's nice to have that, you know, that level of people wanting to know because it's very flattering to me that people even care. But I think that would be probably the most challenging thing.
A lot of people in America love you because I think you're so authentic and real. Even though we've never met before, I just feel like you're a very kind person, and I'm excited that we'll get to meet one day, hopefully. But I want to know, is there an area in life where you feel like people misunderstand you?
I think more so like when I was on the show, I was a little more misunderstood because my edit was very, I came across very quiet and shy, I think, and that's not my personality at all. And so I think a lot of people were like, oh, she's boring or she doesn't have a personality. And I'm very sarcastic. And so I was especially on the first season I was nervous because I was scared if I was sarcastic that it would come across as like, you know, being mean or catty. And so looking back, I feel like I could have been didn't need to be so reserved, but you know, you never know.
Well, so on the first season, you were runner up, and then you were on the season again in 2016.
Yeah.
What was the favorite place that you traveled from both of those episodes?
Well, on the first season I did, he was a farmer in Iowa. So they really focused on that being the theme for the season. So it was kind of funny because my friend who nominated me was like thinking like, oh, she's going to get to go and travel the world. This is what she's always wanted to do. And I think we went to New Mexico. We went to South Dakota. We went to Iowa. It was literally every time Chris Harrison would announce where we were going, we were like, oh, you know.
That is so funny. I forgot that happened with Chris's season. So you did get to travel the world with 2016 season?
Well, with the final 3 of Chris's season, we went to Bali. So that was amazing. That was like totally came unexpected and out of nowhere because it was like we were in the Midwest United States most of the time. And then on Ben's season, we went to Bahamas and Mexico. And but I think so Bali would be my answer for the first season. And then the second was Bahamas. And it was rainy and not ideal as far as like experiencing anything. But I don't know why, but there was so much laughter during that time. So that was like one of my favorite memories on the show.
Well, I have a couple quick fire questions for you before we end. And this is definitely getting to know you better. So if you want to share, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I don't know if you're single right now, but if you could go on a date with anyone, who would it be?
Can it be like hypothetical in the sense of like
it
they're
be,
married,
yes.
but if they weren't married?
It could, yes.
Chris Hemsworth.
Okay, I like that. Okay, I want to know your best style tip.
My best style tip is to always steam or iron your clothes. Wrinkles never look good.
A makeup item that you can't go without.
I don't know if it's makeup, but chapstick. I have to have chapstick.
Favorite city you've traveled to and why?
My favorite city in the U.S. is Sedona, Arizona. It was just like so peaceful and so beautiful. I would love to go back there. And then I just went to Paris for the first time, and it's on my favorites list now.
Oh, I love it. I think you shared, that's on your blog, right? Your trip?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, your favorite guilty pleasure, besides Dr. Pepper and McDonald's?
Oh, forgot. I was like, I was literally like, they were on the tip of my tongue. Olive Garden.
Okay, the limitless breadsticks and the salad bowl. All right. What would people be surprised to know about you? Do you have a hidden talent?
I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, it's not really that hidden anymore, but I am really, really good at like arcade basketball, like the Papa shot.
Yeah, and you were on the show shooting basketball game, right, with Ben?
Oh yeah. I'm an athlete, so my whole family all played sports. So I don't really have a reason to show that off often, but yeah, I guess it's something people wouldn't know.
Okay, a life motto that you like to live by.
I'm going to stick with what I said earlier, which is you can be the ripest and juiciest peach on the tree and someone still won't like peaches.
I want to know who you look up to the most and why.
I really just look up to anyone who's like brave enough to be themselves and to be positive in the midst of anything like bad going on around them. Because I think, I don't know, it's easier to talk about than to actually do it.
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about resilience. And yeah, all these kids too in our hospitals, they go through so many hard things, yet they just continue to show up and they put a smile on their face. And it's very admirable. Your favorite Grey's episode? This is a hard one because they just celebrated their 4,000th episode? I can't remember what they just celebrated, but there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot to choose from. The ones that I think of that come to my mind are the bomb episode where she has her hand on the bomb, Meredith does. The episode where she builds a house of candles and they get back together at the end, she and Derek. And weirdly, it gave me more anxiety than anything I've ever watched in my life, but the shooter in the hospital episode. I really miss like OG Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, like Izzy. Like Izzy and
Izzy.
Yeah,
and
Izzy.
like like Mark and Lexi. I just like miss those characters. So I'm gonna watch it till it's not on TV anymore, but I do miss the old episodes.
If there was a message that you want to deliver through your brand, what would that be?
I guess like be kind to everyone, because I mean it's just even when people send me, I had a troll send me a horrible message recently, and I posted it kind of like laughing it off, but then I read it a few times after I posted it, and it was like so hurtful, and I don't cry often, but it made me cry, and the amount of kind messages that I got, like people sending me, encouraging me, also made me cry, but in a different way. And it was just like, wow, there's so many people, like they don't know me at all, and they're like sending me these incredibly kind messages that totally turned my day around. So I think that's my main message, is like, be kind to everyone. Like, even if they're not kind to you, still be kind.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. All right, my last question, and I ask this to all of my guests. If there were 3 miracles that you could create in the world today, what would that look like for you?
I always say this, but I would cure childhood cancer and disease. I would make it possible for like families to like visit each other with no money having to be an issue, like being able to, spend time with family without having to worry about like flights or anything like that. And I would cure like Alzheimer's. I have friends who have dealt with it, and I think it's the most heartbreaking disease. Like I can't even imagine.
Becca, I'm so grateful for your time today. Where can people find more about you?
So I have Instagram, it's Becca Tilley. I have Twitter, which is Becca Tilley 5. My YouTube channel, Becca Tilley, and then our podcast, of course, is Scrubbing In with Becca Tilley and Tanya Rad, which you can listen to on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere where you can listen to podcasts.
Awesome. Everyone should check that out. And once again, thank you so much for your time. And hopefully I'll get to meet you at the Chalk Prom this year. And I'm just so grateful for your big heart and all you do to help create miracles in the world.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
I got a good feeling. My head is reeling. Hello today. It's all good. All good.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Untold Miracles podcast. If you like the episode, do us a favor and go to iTunes and leave a review. And if you haven't joined our Facebook group, go to Untold Miracles and leave us your story about your personal miracle. Thank you for your support of Untold Miracles.